Hey guys, before we get started, I want to give a huge shout out to every single one of you who have supported me by listening to these narrations. If this is your first time listening, hit that subscribe button and drop a like. Also, this story will have multiple parts, so make sure you stay tuned. Whenever I close my eyes, I see him laughing again, saying that I'll never be able to make it on my own, that I'll starve in the streets and come back begging him to take me back, that I can't do anything without him, and that's why I'll never really leave him, that I have to be guided and disciplined like a stray dog. He wasn't always like that. He was sweet before he started making more money than I do. Then the humiliation started. He told me to know my place, to quit my job, because if I was going to make a puny salary, it was better that I only took care of the house and of him. He didn't hit me for the first 3 years of our relationship, and before the verbal abuse, there were no red flags that I could see. I spent over 6 months working odd jobs in secret so I'd have enough money to leave. It's not that I had a bad relationship with my parents, but I didn't consider relying on them because they raised me to be independent. But I did, because not everyone has this privilege, and they'd die to have the opportunity I had been choosing to miss. Because admitting you need help and accepting that you're worth of being helped takes some courage and grandeur too. So when he threw me out in the rain, holding all the last 4 years of my life in a small suitcase, I went to them. Mom and Dad were always good to me, but emotionally distant. They expressed their love in more subtle ways, I suppose. Still, they hugged me tightly for a long moment. Then Mom prepared my favorite comfort food, and after I ate it, Dad grabbed some blankets and put me to sleep in the couch, as he kept watch the whole night, sitting on the armchair beside me with his gun next to him. None of it really matters now, but that's the story of how a 25-year-old freelance writer ended up affording to buy a small and old, but otherwise really nice farmhouse. I always fancied living alone in the countryside, somewhere peaceful but not too remote, where I could have my own chickens and work in silence, but still see my next door neighbor in the distance, and only need to drive 5 minutes to my local farmer's market. My parents helped me finance this marvelous place. The floorboards creaked in some places and all doors needed a good oiling, but the house was solid. With an old-time charm it was hard to find these days, and it even came with a cow. The house was 3 hours away from where I used to live with him, so I felt safer. I was ready to start again. Mom and Dad spent the whole day helping me move and make small repairs. Didn't the ad say the house came with 50 chickens? There's only 42, my mom informed. I couldn't help but laugh. It was very like her to count chickens when there was more pressing things to do.
They probably meant roughly 50.
Dad replied. But 42 is roughly 40, not roughly 50. Or you just miscounted them, Mom. All chickens have pretty much the same face. When the night came, Dad got us some takeout for dinner in the nearby city. We ate between boxes and dusty furniture. Will you two stay for the night? I asked as we had our meal. The house had a master bedroom, a smaller bedroom that I planned on using as my home office, and a third one that needed a lot of work before someone could use it. They looked at each other and I could almost see the engines working inside their brains. Staying meant they would have a horrible night of sleep, as both were severely allergic to dust, but maybe I'd feel more protected and at peace. Not staying meant having some decent rest to drive back the next day, and maybe I'd feel independent and strong, but maybe not. I think we'll just go to an inn in the city, Mom finally replied. I nodded. I was ready to spend my first night alone. And I was about to find out that I wasn't alone. I don't even know why I went to the attic that night. I was exhausted and all I needed was to take a good shower and go to bed early. I guess I just wanted to take a good look all around my new place and feel satisfied that I had somewhere nice to live.
Oh, my orcas, finally!
A very high-pitched voice scared me as I let myself in. Startled, I tried to grab something to defend myself.
Whoa, stop this shit!
She added, and my silly weapon, a loose piece of wood, fell from my hand. I shone my flashlight in her direction and saw a magnificent, if extremely odd, female. Her crimson hair was styled like a 20s diva, matching her brilliant vermilion dress, full of elaborate embroideries. Her light brown skin was gleaming, but covered in black scales on the shoulders. Her face was beautiful, but you could see a pair of fangs partially covering her pouty lips. Her eyes were weird and mesmerizing. She had feline pupils, 2 narrow slits almost lost in the immense pale pink of her irises, and long, thick eyelashes that made her the prettiest woman I'd ever seen, despite the fangs, the stained shoulders, and, oh my god, the scaly, dragon-like ragged wings. It took me a while to realize that her bare foot was like the hoofs of a goat, and that her hairstyle almost covered 2 curled black horns. The tips of her fingers were black too, and covered in dried blood. I just watched her for a while, not knowing what to do. Her presence didn't feel menacing, just imposing. She then smiled and whined like a queen.
Come on, feed me! I only had 1 chicken today.
Automatically, almost like I was under a spell, I went to the hen house to get her some food. When she finished eating, she introduced herself.
My name doesn't matter. It's too dangerous to say it out loud anyway. But yours is Melinda, right?
She asked, and I nodded.
Well, girlfriend, your house was cheap because it's haunted. But luckily for you, I'm the Empress here. So the lower ghost won't disturb you as long as you follow my rules. Be smart, and you can live happily raising your calves or whatever. Are you ready to hear them? Don't only nod like a dumbass.
Yes, I'm ready, I hurriedly replied.
Rule number 1. You'll feed me 2 raw chickens every day. I don't care where they come from, but if you don't give me them, I'll wreak havoc in your little farm and eat alive all your hens and any other animals you have. And then, I'll be unwilling to be nice with you for a while, which means Flying Head Stew will visit in your dreams.
Right, I quivered, but I could live with that.
Rule number 2. No people sleeping over. As the master of the house, you have some privileges, but not your guest. You can have visitors, but if they're here in the darkest hours of the night, I'm under no obligation to be nice to them, so I will draw little dicks on their foreheads in permanent marker, grab their foot and their tongue to jolt them awake, and maybe sit on their chest for a little sleep paralysis fun if I feel like it. And don't even get me started with what legless Linda will do to them.
I laughed a little. Hearing about the other ghost made me feel uneasy, but somehow I knew that I could believe her, that they'd leave me alone unless she said otherwise. So that was fine too. I didn't plan to have my parents and friends stay the night, and if I ever got another boyfriend or girlfriend, we'd just hang out at their place. So far, she had sounded playful, relaxed even, but then her face became somber, and her seriousness was so eerie that made my knees tremble. For a fraction of a second, I considered that maybe he was right and I couldn't do anything proper on my own. that I was putting myself into a situation far more horrid than the abuse I went through. When she spoke again, she sounded like a whole different demon.
Rule number 3. I never make noise, even when I roam around. The others are quiet too, except for the eventual pot falling from the cupboard in the middle of the night. So, if you ever hear footsteps, it's not us. In that case, the only safe place is your bed. Cover your head and wait until I tell you it's okay to come out.
Her pupils contracted even more.
I might be a beautiful, ancient, and scary demon, but there are far greater dangers in this world than me.